morning. Welcome to today's webinar. It's a real pleasure to see participants joining us from across Europe, including SMEs operating in the mobility, transport, and automotive sectors, as well as members of numerous automotive clusters. I would like to warmly welcome our project partners, representatives of clusters, automotive clusters from Spain, France, Czech Republic, Ukraine, and Poland. Thank you for being with us today. The webinar is organized within the Resist 2 project, which aims to support SMEs in navigating the ongoing transformation of the automotive and mobility ecosystem. Through this initiative, we are building practical tools, knowledge, and cooperation opportunities that help companies adapt, innovate, and remain competitive in a rapidly changing environment. Today's session focuses on the automotive and mobility transition and, most importantly, the practical insights for SMEs. Our goal is not only to discuss trends, but to show you real examples and actionable approaches that you can apply in your own organizations. Let me briefly walk you through the agenda. We will start with a short introduction, followed by a keynote speech by Libor Dobeš, manager of the Autoklastr Ostrava, who will share his perspective on the current state of the automotive industry and key future trends with a strong focus on their implications for SMEs. And then we will move to two practical case studies from AC, presented by Mr. Paweł Baraniuk, focused on adopting to market changes from a product to technology perspective. And the second one from Kaizen Institute, Spain, presented by Mr. Borja Iglesias, showing how operational transformation can be achieved through the Kaizen approach. At the end, we will have a Q&A session where we will also briefly present opportunities available for SMEs within the Resist 2 project. Before we begin, just a few organizational remarks. Please mute your microphone and turn off your cameras during the session. You are welcome to ask questions via the chat. We will address them at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. The webinar will last 1 hour, but not longer than 1.5 hours, so we are pretty flexible. You should know that we record the session, so it can be later published on the project YouTube channel. After the webinar, we will share a short summary presented with contact details to the presenting experts. However, please note that the presentation slides will not be shared. Let me also highlight that this is just the beginning. We plan to organize similar webinars regularly, approximately every 2 months. Upcoming topics will include green transformation, electromobility, and other key industry shifts, always supported by practical case studies from SMEs, mainly from clusters participating in Resist 2 project. I strongly encourage you to stay engaged. This is a great opportunity not only to learn, but also to connect and position your company within emerging value chains. And now, without further speeches, let us begin. Libor, the space is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bartosz. Good morning to everyone, and apologies, I had troubles with Microsoft. It doesn't let me go through, so let me try to do it via phone. And I kindly ask Anna to share the slides by clicking on them as I need. So they are the only Autoklastr in the Czech Republic, member of National Cluster Association, European Cluster Association, and Czech Automotive Association. The presentation I'm going to show you is more or less the inspiration. Do not take it as a full analysis. I've done it in the way that it was a snapshot of what's happening in the automotive from our perspective in the Czech Republic. And that can be an inspiration to look at other sources of information and see what's more relative to you. So in the first slide, it's taken from McKinsey. It says that the market is still very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And in the Economic Forum in Davos 26, they have highlighted that even within volatility, it's a high variability, and you can see it in the fluctuation of the schedules, in the business coming in, business going out, unpredictable scheduling. So it's a piece of art now to properly schedule. Definitely, it's a race of AI everywhere. And the last point here is that many of the technologies that you see in some industries migrate across industries. And you see like the applications, especially in the electronics, chip technology, sensoring, and software across several industries, as I highlighted here. So this one is taken from the Czech environment. That's Czech automotive industry snapshot. It's a very significant piece of the industry here, roughly 1/3 of industrial production, 9% of gross domestic product. And most importantly, it's the major private investor into R&D activities in the country. It's similar also throughout Europe. So innovation in automotive is a must, and companies invest in it. And they give the word to R&D centers, to universities, and to people in the companies. Directly employing 180,000 people, indirectly more than 500,000. The Czech Republic became a really significant piece of the automotive industry over the past 15 years, with a major acceleration after 2010. Right now, we are producing over 1 million cars annually. It's like 1.5 million, nearly 2 consecutive years, record years here. So good to see it. We are number 10 global in the production. And Škoda became number 3 car seller in Europe behind Volkswagen and Toyota. So very successful years, 23, 24, 25 for Czech producers. What's noticeable is that the R&D activities get stronger, and many of the R&D centers extend their activities in the Czech Republic. And we are also amongst the first ones adopting the automotive new trends in the autonomous mobility. We have the law that allows the traffic and testing of the cars that are 2+ level and higher, which means with Germany, we can test autonomous vehicles in the field. In the global passenger cars production, the slide in the bottom right, it's similar even for 2025. It says that the center of gravity has moved to Southeast Asia and in China. Europe a bit stagnating, and America just a little bit progressing. The figures for this year, I do not have them here because I've done it in March and the results were not available, but it shows that the global market has very slightly increased. Within Europe, it was 1.8% increase for 25 year. Good increases in Germany, Czech Republic, for instance, and down again a little percentage in France, Spain, and Italy. Okay, on the right-hand side, you can see the top exporters in the world in 2025. And guess what? China became number 1 exporter, and it's already 2 consecutive years. And assuming that this year it will even grow. And what's interesting is that 3/4 of Chinese export have a combustion engine. So it's not only electric vehicles, it's hybrids, it's plug-in hybrids, it's standard ICE vehicles. Japan is high, Germany is high, and Czechia became number 5 in exports. we export more than 90% of the vehicles made in Czechia. In terms of battery electric vehicles, BEV, China is the leader. 6 million BEVs, mainly BYD, Geely, Sites, Bytes, and many other brands. The USA, with Tesla being the second, and a piece of that is also Tesla made in China. Germany, 1 million, Korea, 500,000. What's happening is that the Chinese not only export vehicles, nowadays in the first quarter of 2026, we've seen some of the stagnation of the Chinese market and more pressure on exporting these cars, primarily to Europe. China invests as a direct foreign investment to Europe, a lot of investment coming to Hungary, it's BYD driven, Germany, Spain, and Poland. And they also control the expansion to the Southeast Asia and to Latin America, and of course the Russian market, it's open to them as well. This one shows the global production figures. You see that nowadays we are at around 90 million, still will be growing by 2030, the assumptions are. The contribution of the piston engines, as you can see the mark on the right, is shrinking a little bit, but doesn't shrink as rapidly as people thought, especially in Europe. EV, battery electric vehicles are not as much adopted in the market as anticipated, and the pre-COVID levels in production globally shall be achieved by year 2028. For instance, for the Czech OEMs, we are already higher than the pre-COVID levels now. That's an example of the mobility trends as they were prepared in previous Resist project. So once again, thanks to Sonia Pinheiro and Seaga in 2023, and the European trends are still the same: resilience, digital transformation, green transformation, sustainability. According to the legal acts of EU, there is not as much happening in terms of reductions of the limits of CO2 emissions. You've seen that it a little bit shifted, but still is something which is a major hurdle for the companies to achieve. That one is taken from Mario Draghi's report, highlighting the top countries with a major contribution of automotive industry in their global domestic product and gross domestic product. And this is highlighting that the share of automotive industry in Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Germany is really high, above the average. And these countries mostly export the cars outside, like the Czech Republic does. That one is interesting. That's taken from the LinkedIn, from hashtag car industries analysis. Do not have yet the figures for 2025. However, on the left-hand side, number 7, BYD, 2 years ago was not in top 10, and now it's number 7 for 2024. And for 2025, it superseded Ford and became number 6. In terms of the battery electric vehicles in the middle section of the chart, 2024 Tesla was number 1. 2025 BYD became number 1. What happens beyond that, we'll see. At the first quarter of this year, the demand on electric vehicles in China has dropped, and the attempts are to use the capacity for the supply globally outside of China. On the right-hand side, you see how steep the curve is for Chinese to export cars to the world markets, and that accelerated since 2021 and keeps growing. That one is showing on the left-hand side all of the brands in different segments of the OEMs where they are positioned globally. And on the right-hand side, you see 109 Chinese OEMs. And for some people, surprisingly, for some not, that's not only low-end vehicles, but it's also semi-premium, premium, high-tech, luxury, sport versions. So any type of vehicle China is able to produce and penetrate the market. Definitely what's happening is the concentration of the market, similar to the Western production Companies are getting merged, or some companies will seize the market, and we see this trend happening in China as well as in the rest of the world. This shows the profitability of the cars. And what's to be mentioned here, not only that Ferrari makes the biggest profit, is that battery electric vehicle production is not that easy to make with profit, with pure economic profit, and counting all of the R&D cost, fixed cost, and variable cost. So at the moment, there are only 5 producers that are able to produce battery electric vehicles with profit. That's Tesla, and the rest is Chinese. All of these producers anyway, and especially in Europe, are attempting to reduce the manufacturing cost, and they attempt to reduce it by 20-30%, which would put the European cost at the Chinese cost levels. This one shows the evolution of the volume of vehicle production since 2019. 2025 is a little bit better again. Globally, it's a very slight increase. In Europe, it's year over year 1.8% increase, but still 19% below 2019 level. What happens in Asia, China keeps growing, and even 25 to 24, they kept a good pace, and the growth rate was at around 8 to 10%. Same thing in India. India starts booming now. This is how the auto industry looks from the European perspective. 13 million jobs and 8% of gross domestic product. And of course, major spending in the R&D. That's again, throughout the country is very similar. 1/3 of the investment to R&D comes from automotive. Sorry, I have the chart here that was available in Czech only. Number of countries with the body and assembly plants. In Germany, 24, and you know that Volkswagen are talking about shrinking some of those. Great Britain also shrinking. France, Italy, Spain, Czech Republic has 4. Slovakia has 4. Turkey and Hungary 3, and Belgium 3. So it's noticeable shift of body and assembly plants from shrinking into West Europe and moving the production to Central East Europe and making alliances. Generally speaking, every major OEM in Europe makes alliances with Chinese, whether it's Mercedes, Volvo Geely is known, Mercedes Geely is known, Volkswagen with Xpeng, Stellantis has alliance, Renault has alliance. So all of them try to overcome the gap that was created, especially in the electrified and electric vehicles. In terms of the engines used in the cars, Europe definitely has shifted from diesel to petrol and hybrid electric vehicles, and it continues several years in a row. Hybrids are shrinking, electric vehicles are getting the pace, even though it's below the levels that were driven by the European Commissions in 2019-2020. Current percentage of electric vehicles in Europe is at around 17%. The original assumptions of European Commissions were 25%. So it will be still something that will be behind the expectations. And as you may notice, many of the top producers are saying that 100% installation of BEVs in production is not feasible. And most likely we will share technologies from battery electric that may take 30% of the market through hybrids, plug-in hybrids, range extenders, petrol, diesel, and we will have pretty complex powertrain. In terms of the R&D cost and the agreements, what will have an impact on us is the trade agreement that has been signed with India, and India is really booming in the auto industry and still protecting their own market. However, they allowed people from the rest of the world to come and invest and build new factories, similar to what was happening with China a quarter century ago. On the right-hand side, you see that the investment to R&D globally has increased rapidly in China, but more importantly in the United States. And the number of billions of dollars invested in Europe and China is pretty much the same, as opposed US is about a double, which is primarily driven by the fact of very strong development of autonomous mobility in the United States. This shows how the traditional countries or continents have evolved in the auto industry. You see a drop in European OEMs, American OEMs, Chinese go up, and some Chinese disruptors, small companies go up as well. Business profitability, it's an issue, and we make the business to make money. We are not charity. In terms of automotive business, automotive suppliers, revenue-wise, on the left-hand side, they went up by 21% globally, and comparing to 2019. And what's worrisome is the profitability levels. They are stagnating. It's on average, it's in Europe like 3 to 4%, as opposed to industrials business that went up in revenue, and the profitability there is 12 to 17%. And not surprisingly, medical technologies are booming. The business increased by 37% versus 2019, and the profitability there is very high. I was mentioning some of the technologies that may be similar into automotive and medtech, and you can see that many of those get translated from industry to industry, like sensoric applications, robotics, etc. In terms of the EBIT margin, after the drop with the COVID era, it has a little bit recovered, but still the current rate is not good enough, neither for OEMs and especially not for tier suppliers. It's just slightly above zero. Even the big players in the past in the profitability, Volkswagen Group, Porsche, Mercedes, they are at around 1/3 in terms of Volkswagen, and maybe 1/2 in Mercedes. You could see also their stock price has dropped significantly, so the shares in the share market have dropped and reflect the profitability of the business. In terms of the average profitability by the region, China stays high, even though it goes a little bit down. The lowest is South Korea. However, Europe is now shoulder to shoulder with them, so the least profitable become Europe and South Korea. However, we cannot take it as an example of the whole industry. We may have a look at the segments of the industry, and then you can see on the right-hand side, tires, that they have reasonable profit margin from 8% up to 7%. Electronics then going down to especially chassis, exterior and interior parts. So it depends to what you supply within the industry and to whom you may expect higher or lower profit margins. That's taken from the annual report of Škoda Auto. Sorry, these slides are in Czech. The little one on the upper left shows the cost of the energy in the batteries. Currently, it's around $100 per kilowatt. So batteries are still expensive, and their cost doesn't shrink as much. On the right-hand side, you see that the key components for the batteries, like cathodes, battery manufacturing, and car manufacturing, is probably in the red color, driven by China. In the blue, you can see Europe that's increasing in the production of battery electric vehicles, slightly improved in the battery production. However, materials are still coming mostly from China, which is the bottom right corner. In the light red is battery production in China, CATL, BYD, and the other producers. So they have nearly 3/4 of the global market, followed by about 20% Koreans, being LG, Samsung, and SK. And what's to be added there, many of the facilities of Koreans are also having the site producing the cells in China and then exporting them to the mother companies in Korea. So the whole market is dominated by China, and there are no changes in this. Moreover, there is a strong business pressure for batteries of especially CATL building gigafactories in Europe, whether it's Hungary, Germany, Spain, and the only big European battery production plant, Northvolt, went bankrupt last year. That chart shows the productivity and the volume. So you see on the left-hand side that the volume in the bars has not as much changed, and we kept people. Below that, we see the foreign full-time employee equivalent, so person per revenue of 1,000 euros, that we are more or less running at around 160 mark, which becomes a problem for, especially for Europe. There is less volume, same people, more expensive people, and especially in the very automotive industry intensive regions like Baden-Württemberg, you see a major shift. That's Mercedes, Porsche, but their suppliers now are shrinking the jobs in the West Europe to cut the cost, like ZF, Schaeffler, Continental, etc. On the right-hand side, you see what was happening with the capacity of body and assembly plants versus demand and sale. Of course, with the COVID situation, the drop was most significant. But then beyond, in 2023, you see that was increasing the capacity utilization, and then it stays about the same, where both the less utilized capacities are in Europe. Europe still has 4 million vehicles over capacity. China will be increasing over capacity this year, definitely, but nothing that major. And North America has cut the overcapacity from 3.7 million to 1.4. So that's another story for European plants, that they have body assembly plants that are not fully utilized, and the fixed cost is a major issue there. Software-defined vehicle is a good topic. It's a completely different architecture of the vehicles, and I say that all of the major OEMs are now working on the different architecture of the vehicles so that it fits better to the central computer units, not to have dozens of them, but maybe 2 or 3 central computers that manage the vehicle. And using that may allow the companies to cut the cost, and there's this cost avoidance of $16 billion globally by 2030. There are plenty of the Chinese companies migrating to Europe in terms of the OEMs. I mentioned here Leapmotor, Chery, the battery plant, and Vision. And then CATL strongly investing into Hungary, Germany, and Spain. BYD, a very strong investment into Hungary with the body assembly plant, and also their own battery production. And they try to avoid the European customs duties by producing the vehicles for Europe in Europe for future. And some other projects are in Chery to Spain and UK and Geely. Next one, please. What's noticeable is that Chinese have very strong R&D activities. And if you look at the European footprint, majority of the R&D centers of the Chinese companies are already active and located in Germany. That's some of them mentioned here. Cuttle, BYD, Xpeng. Xpeng has opened a big center last year during the European Auto Show in Munich. And some other also invest, like Linio, Chang'an, Great Wall. We don't know these companies as much, but they are big companies in China. And the first attempt is to build their local capability in design of vehicles and parts in Europe. The trend is now from global design to global market has migrated strongly to local design for local market. And similarly, Volkswagen are now creating one central Chinese development location for the whole China. And here we can see the opposite. Chinese are creating development centers in European countries for further development of the business. Trends by Standards and Poor's, obvious there. For the suppliers, the most critical is supply chain resilience, getting the good, talented people, and sustainability, and of course, the strategic partnership. More than ever, people are trying to shrink the development phase, get the best knowledge by being aligned with someone else, working with the standards, working with different platforms and softwares, and share amongst the players that are in the alliance. Next one, please. That's taken from the KPMG annual report that questions the top hundreds of top managers in the automotive industries. So I would mention only nearly all of them, 86%, say they have invested into AI, and it's used very broadly everywhere. And the alliances and partnership are key at 77%. I already commented. On the right-hand side, you see something that surprised me, really, that the priorities of where they are focused in the companies and the customer satisfaction became number 2 from the bottom with 16%, which means that most of people believe that they must work with the efficiency of the processes, brand recognition, with the regulations and the rules, and be sort of, to me, try to build something which some customers do not need. So we may revisit this. My assumption is that the customer satisfaction shall be much higher priority, but that's only myself. This one shows that the productivity, boosting the productivity is the most critical for 48% of managers in the leader companies and 25% in the followers in the market. And what's important on the right-hand side, these companies are willing to invest into the productivity, improve the market presence, improve the sustainability, etc. So lower the cost and the speed is more or less the theme that's across all the companies. Be more efficient and be faster and be flexible. The AI has impact everywhere, even though it says here research and development 48%, supply chain management 46%, production manufacturing 30%, etc. AI is now everywhere, from historically very strong neural networks, machine learning, deep learning. Now it exploded into the new language models and a lot of agents that can help with the admin tasks and also development tasks. So it's across every activity and it cannot be avoided. This summarizes the, let's say, 5 Ts for transformation, technology, trust, tension, and drive together. It all links to the leadership criteria in all of the transformation things, investing into technologies, people, working people together, being data-driven, working with the big data now, and with different business models, with different pressure on time, flexibility, and cost. More than ever, it's a pressure on standardization. This one says that standardized components and systems are already the ones that were not as impacting the high value creation, but more or less the commodity components and systems. And it keeps increasing because people try to get standardized components across the platforms, across the brands. And you see less platforms in the Volkswagen groups. Same thing with Renault, Nissan, applying less platforms and sharing components. And as a shell that you can see, that's the cockpit and the car itself, and the color is different. technology below tries to be as much common as possible. That one is interesting. I've taken it from the North American market, where on the left-hand side, the Chinese companies try to invest into automotive business, then to automotive related, here is auto adjacent, and then a non-auto business, being IT, industrial, consumer goods, financial, and other services. So Chinese companies do not take necessarily their own business as the only business, and they invest, you see here, about the same proportion that they invest into automotive business, 41%, they invest 42% in non-auto. As opposed in the North America, the plants or the major players invest most of the money into automotive business, a little bit less into non-auto business. I do not have these statistics for Europe, but as a model, it says there is money that's beyond the Chinese automotive industry, and the money is invested into several portfolios, as opposed to traditional foreign assembly invest mostly into automotive. The theme of Chinese speed and cost. Everyone talks about it. I have taken this from Roland Berger's specific report that was issued at the end of March on China. That says that we are more or less 25-30% slower and 20-30% more expensive than the Chinese. PDP, product development process, BEV is battery electric vehicle, COGS is cost of goods sold. So you see that we have a gap there, and then we deep dive on some details. And here you can see, to me, it is not a tragedy where we are, because if you look at the right side in the light red, that's an execution phase of building the vehicles here. We are not as much different from the staying Chinese. However, to the top Chinese, being OEM 6 and 7, there is a gap. Like they have 20 months, we have 24, 25, sometimes 30 months. Where we spend much more time is on the left-hand side, the darker shade of red in the strategy phase and the concept phase, where we spend like 10 plus 30 months, so it's 40 months or 32 months in total. And that's what they do differently, and that's why they have achieved a bigger, quicker innovation rate and introduction of the vehicles to the market in about 24 months sooner than we can do in Europe. So we are looking at it in Europe. That's only an example where the difference is. So it's early commitment to design. They use most of the testing and development on digital way. I think in Europe, virtual prototyping, virtual testing will be a good technology to be used and cut the prototyping phase, for instance. Parallel development of hardware and software, and early involvement of the suppliers. Many of the suppliers are involved very early. They continue with the differentiation of the products version to version with many iterations. But what I've seen there is they do not necessarily have as much perfect project management in every phase. They do not try to achieve absolute perfectionism. They achieve the functionality and the cost. And then when it really works and it's okay for the market, they try to enhance it in the market. So it's a different mindset. And here I have some more, next one please, some more technical stuff, that they are also reorganizing their R&D activities in the traditional Chinese. They look at the software-defined vehicles. They look at the penetration of R&D in the West Europe. So they align their workforce to meet that, and they do not necessarily increase the number of engineers. This one is more or less a cookbook to look at what to compare. So understand competitiveness, understand the product design process in China versus Europe, and Chinese cost breakdown. You can see more of that when looking at Rolenberger Chinese report that was issued in March. That's only a snapshot of few slides that says we do understand the basic principles where they are becoming a little bit more heavy or slower than Chinese, and it's up to us how we attack it. And this one was in that material as a self-checking tool. You may use it or not, or just have a look at it and see where we are in terms of what we do in Europe comparing to the Chinese efforts. So time and cost becomes major issue for us in the upcoming years. And that's pretty much it. And I thank you very much for your attention. Should you have any question, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Libor. Your presentation was very insightful and data-driven. It was very interesting to see. Thank you. This is the right moment to move from this broader perspective to a concrete, more real-life examples. Our next speaker represents a company that is a very strong example of how an automotive supplier can approach this transformation in a strategic and structured way. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Paweł Baraniuk from AC SA, a Polish automotive supplier widely known for its LPG systems under STAG name, which is now actively and systematically transforming its business towards electromobility. And Paweł will share their perspective on how to respond to market changes from a product and technology point of view, and how to build a credible transition pathway for the future. Paweł, the floor is yours.
Good morning for everyone. I would like to thank you for the invitation. It's a huge pleasure to tell you a little bit more about our challenges. I know that the market is not so easy as our previously speaker told us about. All of the challenges comes from Asia, not only from Asia, but cost of production goes high, and EBITDA, as we can see, it's not so big as we would like to have. So that's why I would like to tell you a little bit more about our journey with the AC and the STAG brand. So I will tell you a little bit more about the kind of the transformation of our company. I'm the vice president of the management board of AC. I'm responsible for trade and development, and I'm in AC for more than 10 years. Previously, I worked for Subaru and Mitsubishi, so I had almost 15 years experience in the automotive industry. I will start with telling you a little bit more about the AC. So we are on the stock exchange company. We are one of the biggest manufacturing in our part of Poland. We have more than 700 employees. We manufacture CNG and LPG system for cars, trucks, lorries. We are strongly enough in aftermarket, but we also had some of the DOEM project. We also had the R&D. We also had a subsidiary office in Peru and Lima, because Latin America is a really interesting market for us. Our products are available in more than 60 countries right now. We have our own R&D department with more than 70 engineers. You can see a picture of our company. We have more than 25,000 square meters, and we had a lot of challenges. Of course, I will tell you about that in the next slide. So we started with the manufacturing electronic devices, but after a few years, we decided we need to integrate whole LPG and CNG system. So we invest money to develop also the injectors, reducers, etc. And after all, we manufacture whole system for the LPG and CNG. Unfortunately, it wasn't a good decision right now, because in the past we earn a lot of money and we get a lot of profit. But after all, when the cost of production and cost of labor goes high, we lost our advantages, let's say. It's because we lost some of the market share, because customers and workshop looking for the cheapest solution from China. Unfortunately, a lot of fake products of our brand was manufactured in China. So it was not so easy to fight in the Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan market. But we have a global distribution network, and that was one of our advantages. Yeah, so there was a huge challenge because we know that there was some kind of our team lost some kind of the motivation because the market of the auto gas, especially in Europe, goes down because regarding the e-mobility, etc. So we decided we need to change our strategy. We need to prepare a plan until 2030, and maybe if we had enough competence in R&D, maybe we'll be able to prepare a new solution, for example, for the electric cars, like a wall box. And that was our idea, that was our goal. And of course, we decided let's do it. Let's try to fight with that market. The market was not so easy, as you know. A lot of Asian manufacturers, a lot of wall boxes from China. But without it, okay, let's talk with our with our partners from the clusters. Let's find what could be the kind of the advantages for our wall boxes, and let's try to do it. And it was a strategic decision, and it was a good decision because we bring some of the more hopes for our teams, especially the R&D, because they need to have some kind of the new ideas, new places for develop. A lot of our products are from the stack department. It was enough for that car, so it was really hard to develop something new, something innovative. It's much more easier to build something new with the new segment, so we can go forward. And after that, we decided we would like to achieve almost 30% of revenue from our new business area by 2030. It was a really huge challenge, and we still on that road. We're just waiting for another years, but we are on the good step right now, and we have some kind of the milestones. So we are going in the right the direction. Yeah, so we decided we can start it with our own wall boxes. It will be started from the AC, but maybe in the future we can also talk about the DC wall boxes. Why we decide about the stack EV? Because we have enough experience and know-how about the hardware and software. As I told you before, we manufacture it, and we're still manufacturing the CNG and LPG systems. So we manufacture ECU, we project the whole PCB sets, injectors, reducers. So we have enough experience to prepare our own product. One of the most important issues was market research. So we decided we will cooperate with another cluster responsible for the new mobility in Poland, and that's why we came a little bit closer to fleets managers, etc., to prepare the dedicated, flexible system, because we know that it could be one of our advantages. I mean, we should be flexible, definitely more than biggest concern on, definitely more than Asian products designed in Europe but manufactured in China. And we decided we will implement our own ecosystem, and we will build on our network of distributors and our workshops. For example, in Poland we have almost 2,000 workshops, and they think what we can do after autogas. I mean, how we can diversify our activity. So we have some kind of the project with them and show them, look, we can build some kind of the stack EV point. You can be our distributor because you know our brand already, you know us like the company. So it will be much more easier to build the network of sales if we already have the network of the LPG and CNG system. And we prepare some kind of the POC with the action and with the Kuchnia Wikinga. Kuchnia Wikinga is the biggest Polish catering company, really growing, and from from our region. And after that to POC, we decided, okay, it's a good moment to move a little bit more aggressive. And we decided we will start it with the Polish market, and then we will implement our products also for the another markets based on the similar story like we did 20 or 30 years ago with the auto gas industry. You could check how it looks, how it works. Of course, after my speech, unfortunately, I need to go for another meeting, but Mr. Robert Ruliński will stay on the webinar and he will be able to send you more information. And of course, if you have another question, he will prepare the answer. But what you can see, we are really proud that we can manufacture it in Poland. And after all, the cost of the manufacturing compared to the cost of manufacturing in China, it's not as higher as we imagine. I mean, it's less than 20%, 15-20% differences. So we know how to build automatization with our wall boxes, and we already had some kind of the agreement and relation with the supplier of electronic harnesses or electronic devices. We already purchasing a lot of electronic stuff for the Stark brand, so it was much more easier for us to bring some of the good offer for our wall boxes, and we get a lot of help from our global supplier, because they also changed their manufacturing. For example, the ST or another manufacturer of microchips, they also invest a lot of money for electromobility, e-mobility, especially in Europe. So they also invite us for that kind of the journey, and they prepare really good components for our production. So we did it. I mean, we implement technology and we prepare the product line. We started our sales. And we also start our export, just the POC in Germany or in Mexico even. But we are waiting for be a little bit more strong on the Polish market, and then we will decide to move a little bit stronger for the export department, right? And our target, as I said before, it's 65 million Polish zloty revenue by 2030. So we decided we will build on existing competences. As I talk about the R&D department, it's similar stuff like for our Stark Autogas system. We decided we would like to focus on our own team because they know how it works. They are we trust them, and it's not so easy to build a new R&D department from zero. I mean, onboarding, etc. It's always plus 6 or 12 months. So it was much more easier for us to decide, okay, let's build on the existing competence and develop the real life deployments. And that was our key. Yeah, and after that, we treat our technologies direction for a growth. Technology and currently existing network of the distribution of the market. So we already know how to implement and build a new product, how to launch the product to the market. And that was our some kind of the advantages to prepare that wall boxes. Yeah, and as I tell you before, if you have any other question, please feel free to ask Robert. I would like to tell you that sometimes it's really not so easy to make a hard decision, but it's real dynamic time in our business life. So sometimes we need to be a little bit more brave and decide, okay, let's fight with the Asian manufacturing, because we spent a lot of time discussing, okay, we will lose market, we will lose margin, but I think that we don't talk enough about what we can do with it, how we can implement, how we can fight, and please keep fingers crossed for us. And I hope that we will build some of the nice European brand manufacturing in Poland. Thank you for your time. And if you are looking for any contact, please contact directly with Robert, or he can share my contact details as well.
Thank you very much, Paweł, for your very practical and insightful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's move to the question on how to implement such transformation in practice. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Borja Iglesias, Senior Partner at Kaizen Institute España, who will present how companies can drive operational transformation using the Kaizen approach, from diagnosis to measurable results. Borja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And hello, everybody. As you were saying, my intention is to present a real case of operational transformation with Kaizen approach. I think the previous and mainly the first keynote speaker was presenting a near future with a lot of threats, and our experience is that I think I don't know if everybody, but most companies are with one of their top 3 or top 5 strategic initiatives is related with productivity improvement, because we need to remain competitive as a short-term, let's say, countermeasure, and for sure we need also innovation for the middle and long term. But in the short term, competitiveness will be probably one of the key to survive, to resist, and to keep resilience. And this is basically what we do. In Kaizen Institute, we help companies remain competitive, improve through the people, eliminating waste in the value streams. This specific case that I bring is a recent project we have done in automotive industry, in a small company, more or less 7 million of revenue, tier 2 of automotive industry. Being a tier 2 is not the same than being a tier 1, so we are not directly connected with the OEM, so we have much more variability usually in terms of the orders and the variability of the demand. We have 75 people in this company, and the main production areas has to do with small parts, metal stamping, and they produce parts for the emblems or the logos of the car manufacturers. When we address an opportunity like this, we usually divide the collaboration into phases. For us, it's not good to go with a solution and try to implement this solution. We don't implement solutions. We try to solve problems, and this is why we usually do a first analysis with the team of the site or the company. So we want to understand exactly how good we are using our resources, and then what kind of solutions we can implement to really address this specific problem. So what we did in this case, we analyzed the main value streams of the company for both material and information flow. In terms of planning, as I said, being a tier 2 made a lot of variability in our demand, and we produced against the forecasts of our customers. So what it means in the daily activities that we are producing, what we expected that the customer will order, and not what the customer is really ordering. So we have a lot of urgencies, changes of the daily plan. The size of the company, and if you, some of you belong to a similar size company, we don't have a lot of resources. So most of our people is direct labor, and many or very little people is indirect. And these very little people, shift leaders or production managers, spend many of their time in planning and handling and managing urgencies. So we try to map this. Then the next step in this phase was to try to understand how good we were, as I said, using our resources. So we spent some time with the people, and what we saw is that because we work with stamping machines, we had a lot of micro stops in the people waiting for the cycle time of the machines. But as the machines was separated, it's not easy to use this person to share between machines because they are separated. And then we have also an OEE of around 60%, something like this. And many of the losses has to do with planning losses. The changeovers are very long. It's not very well standardized. And also the beginning and the end of the shifts, we have some stoppages there. And regarding the daily management, as I said, because we spend a lot of time with urgencies and planning, we are not spending many time on standardization and process control. So what is the outcome of this? We have people working differently and not stable processes in the production area. So with this company, we define a plan with 3 main drivers. One has to do with productivity and efficiency. This is much more related with the EBITDA or profitability of the company. Then we will show some more detail on the results. The second one has to do with digitalization of planning and sequencing. And this is related with 3 main topics. First, reduce the time spent for the middle management for this firefighting environment of planning, so they can save this time for process control and improving, but also reducing stock and increasing service level. That was the main topic for this second driver. And the third, with this time that we are able to save from middle management, spend more and better time for the daily management, standardization and problem solving. Regarding the productivity and efficiency, what we did in this company, as I said, many of the productivity loss came because operators were isolated with the machines. So we made a breakthrough change in the layout. We connected machines that were in the same process. So people could work at the same time with more than one machine. We also changed a bit the border of lines, so the way we present the materials and the boxes and the size of the boxes were also changed, so people didn't need to move to take material. And we also organized a bit the logistics, that at that point was the same operators, the one who made their own supply, so a lot of losses in terms of productivity there. And we also made some quick wins in terms of OEE improvement, mainly related with planned losses and changeover improvement, and also some quick wins in scrap. That because they were working with metal parts, also the scrap was quite expensive. For the planning and the digitalization, we implemented their system, a tool that we have predefined and that we adapted to the needs of this company with some main topics to cover. First of all, we deployed a simple and visual way to see what are the orders that we have in the system and what is the risk of not compliance. So with the current stock, the real orders that we have in real time, what are the orders that we are in risk of not fulfilling because we have not a plan to produce and we have orders, so we can react proactively to reduce problems in service level. So we can react before having the problem because we have this information visual and simple in the system. We also created a module to improve the monthly planning of the company. In this case, this module helped define and make to stock and make to order strategy definition. So some parts that we were producing against forecast, we began to produce against stock. And this system helped calculating the batch size, the optimum batch size according to the real behavior of each reference, but also what are the real time replenishment levels according to the lead times of replenishment, according to the real average demand of each product, and it's recalculated autonomously without the calculation of the people. Also, we created a module for sequencing, so for the optimum sequence of the batches in the different machines. So no more need to do this manually. The system gives this in a simple and visual way. And also we developed a module for workforce management. So all the constraints that we have in our people because of the skills you need to operate each of the machines, we put this in the system. So they gave us information about what kind of machines we can open and not, and how we organize the people in the shop floor, again, with a simple and visual way. And here you have some images of this solution implemented. This is the module of the visibility of the orders in risk. So we know we have here an order that if we do nothing, we will fail because there is not stock and there is not a plan to produce this in the short term. So the ending will come before we are able to produce. So it gives quick information so you can react against the future and predictable loss of service level in this case, and some images about the sequencing and the visibility of the different orders in the machines. And the last driver we made with them was to work a lot also on the digitalization and the improvement of the daily management. In this case, the digital is not so important. It's much more important the routines. So we help them define the main KPIs for each area, and we put this digital, but also we create some visual and physical boards. So the shift leader is able to monitor with operators how is the productivity of the different areas, the main problems, and to react and standardize and solve the repetitive problems. And with the shift leader, we spend a lot of time with them to reinforce and spend much more time in process control, because standardization is important, but it's even more important the routines of the following of these standards. So we created some digital audits. So every hour, shift leader needs to go to the different areas, make some questions and react against these deviations with the system. And then we have all this information digitalized so we can track the fulfillment of the standards in the different areas for the different operators and so on. Results of this, it's a very complete project. We usually don't do everything in a small company at a time, but in this case, it was a massive transformation, but we can go for only one of these three drivers, and it makes also sense. But in this case, it was quite complete, massive productivity improvement, good impact also in quality costs and also in stock reduction, with a total benefits of almost 500,000, that in a company of this size, it was more or less 8 points of profitability, that it's basically duplicating the benefits they had. So it's a good way to resist and to be more competitive, and it worked very well. And that was my presentation, quickly and visual. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Borja. Well, we are approaching to the end. Thank you all for your participation and your insightful questions. We have seen several relevant themes emerging in the chat, including how SMEs can remain competitive in a European value chain, how to balance localization with diversification beyond automotive, what strategic actions automotive European companies are taking globally, and how to approach scaling production and choosing the right manufacturing model. Unfortunately, some of our speakers had to leave earlier and are no longer with us, so we are not able to address all of these questions live. However, we will consolidate them and after the session share with the speakers and come back to you with answers in the follow-up email. Well, Libor, I see you are still here. Would you like to respond to any of the questions? So maybe at least part of them will be answered here.
So first one is the second question, which is what Europe does with the automotive industry. It's strengthening. I'm afraid nothing. Only the companies do their own in keeping their good position in the global market. And most of the companies have their internal goals on the cost reductions. Like Volkswagen Group has 20% manufacturing cost reduction by 2030. Škoda has this task even bigger, 30% by 2030. And that's the same for all of the OEMs. They recognize that they must be more cost efficient. That means one hand is the threat to the suppliers, the other one is opportunity for new suppliers to come in and provide products which is made more productively and can be used. Second thing is that the companies are looking at different manufacturing processes, especially in tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers, trying to put much more of automation, robotization in their production shop floor. The cost of energy is up, the cost of labor, of people is up, and many companies, once they have free capital, they start to set up robotic lines, and instead of 10 people, they have one skilled maintenance/robotic guy to maintain the line. Similar to what the Spanish folks have shown, the reports from every machine available in the lifetime, AI used for the scheduling of the products and build everything in real time what's needed. And energy cost, still a major issue for the producers of heavy energy intensive products. So like the casting factories, aluminum castings are highly demanded on the new vehicles, especially electric vehicles have much more consumption of aluminum casting products, and the cost of electricity in Europe is not that favorable. So renewable energy, if there is availability. Second thing, where to put the energy if you overproduce. So I'm in favor of decentralized hydrogen stations with the electrolyzers at the plant. In terms of the first question, what SME can do, the overall statement is that the big corporations, big OEMs, big tier ones, they are much more receptive to accept the ideas and the work of SMEs or startups in their development phase, and being early involved and being able to provide the solutions that are more efficient than the current ones. So most of the development, R&D development organizations of Born Assembly and tier ones are accepting collaboration with the SMEs or startups based on NDAs. And that's an opportunity. In terms of software-defined vehicles, that's a new architecture of the vehicle that comes with the completely new models. No one will reorganize completely the old vehicle. So whatever is 3-4 years down the road, that's an opportunity. And especially in the electric mobility, in the BEVs, and also the plug-in hybrids, they look at the architecture to be defined by software preferences, as opposed to every supplier having their control units in the hand lab, control units in the aircon business, etc. So more or less the trend is to have, usually it's around, Tesla is one central computer, but most of the European OEMs are at the level of 2 to 3 central computers for all the systems in the car. And as a platform, they are either national associations, they are also the centers of excellence of autonomous vehicles, software-defined vehicles in every country. So you can talk to those, and you can talk to the leaders in the market, being the Europeans. You've mentioned Škoda, that's a good example, but you may see similar examples with Volkswagen Group, with Stellantis or Renault. If you have something that provides the cost benefit and speed benefit to the OEMs and tier suppliers, they will start listening to you. In the past, it was not that common, but right now they see it as a big gap in terms of the architecture of the vehicles that needs to be very early involvement. And maybe specific to the Polish market, you are now have a chance to join a major activity of American company, which is one of the leaders in autonomous mobility, company called Waymo. They have moved their office into Warsaw, so maybe a good contact with them. They are very, very strong in development of the robotized vehicles.
Only one comment on my side, and making use of this resist. I encourage companies to use this kind of programs, because I think we don't have time. We are very busy, and those companies, as I said, is usually firefighting every day. But I think it's important to stop, reflect, and react. And this kind of programs gives some resources for that. So I encourage to use them wisely, because it's a good opportunity. We are still in time. I think the threat and the problems are there, but we are still in time. We can make use of our experience industrially. I think the industrial cultural, the operational model may be a competitive advantage of Europe. Let's go for that. There is a lot of room for improvement yet in short term. So let's go for it. And this kind of programs may help a lot. So let's use them wisely.
And SMEs are still supported by lots of project titles from European funds or national funds, whether it is for the clean tech, deep tech, digitization, automation, robotization, still lots of support existing in there.
All right, it's 11:27, which means that we are rapidly approaching to the very end of our meeting. So please bear in mind that the project, the Resist2 project, is still running. The webinars will continue. We also have a bit wider offer for you under this project. The networking opportunities, the assessments helping to identify development needs and transformation pathways, tailored services supporting innovation and internationalization, dedicated innovation calls designed to support concrete business initiatives. So we encourage you to follow the Resist2 project on LinkedIn to stay up to date with upcoming opportunities, events, and open calls. If any of you would be interested in presenting your company or a case study during one of our upcoming webinars, please feel free to contact me directly. I will be very happy to include your experience. As mentioned earlier, we will continue this webinar series approximately every 2 months, focusing on key transformation topics such as green transition and electromobility or raw materials, always with a strong practical perspective. I would also like to highlight here that on the 3rd and 4th of June, we are planning to organize a matchmaking seminar in Mulhouse in France, and more details will follow soon. Also, the LinkedIn website is a perfect place to stay up to date. Thank you once again for joining us today. Have a great day and see you at our next events. Thank you very much.